the horrendous nature of atheism is exposed. And how is the horrendous nature of atheism exposed? In one of the tweets, he states, with respect to those meanings of human that are relevant to the morality of abortion, any fetus is less human than an adult pig. This is to justify abortion. He likens the human fetus to an adult pig. And this is what atheism leads to. There is no moral compass. Once you lose Iman, you have no Iman, you believe in no God, you will believe in that you have no soul. Like Bertrand Russell, he didn't believe he had a soul. Once you lose Iman, there is no real morality. You would accept anything. And this is where you have atrocious secular laws, like the abortion of completely developed fetuses, children in the stomach, that are aborted one day prior to birth. That's child killing, the killing of children. And then in this country, if we are having less births, the population will decline. Then what is the point of complaining about immigration? The population itself is declining, and you are encouraging abortion. So a man sleeping with a man would be justified, a woman marrying a woman would be justified, anything is justified. There was one young man who I discussed with, who had left Islam. Someone from the masjid took me to discuss with him, and in the course of conversation he had no problems with any of the moral conundrums that are a result of atheism, because once a person believes in no God, there is no real morality, as I will touch upon further down. So I make mention of Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and then there is the mention of Sam Harris. And this Sam Harris is co-author of the book The Bell Curve. And this book controversially posited a genetic basis for the perceived difference between the IQs of the black and white races. So he's a racist, and he claims that there is a difference based on genetics of black people and white people in the IQ, which of course is faulty and a racist argument. I give the citation to that, and I mention such Ku Klux Klan type narratives can easily misappropriate the science of the saintly Richard Dawkins, who tells us the science of eugenics is correct, even though heaven forbid we should do it. So after mentioning Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris is Jewish, by the way. Many of these new atheists, they have Jewish heritage. But Richard Dawkins, he tweets regarding eugenics. He states it's one thing to deploy eugenics on ideological, political, moral grounds. It's quite another to conclude that it wouldn't work in practice. Of course it would. It works for cows, horses, pigs, dogs, and roses. Why on earth wouldn't it work for humans? Facts ignore ideology. So even though Richard Dawkins is not advocating for eugenics, he is saying it's a scientific fact with human eugenics. And then he states further down, he clarifies. He says, for those determined to miss the point, I deplore the idea of a eugenic policy. I simply said deploring it doesn't mean it wouldn't work. Just as we breed cows to yield more milk, we could breed humans to run faster or jump higher. But heaven forbid that we should do it. And then he also states, a eugenic policy would be bad. I'm combating the illogical step from X would be bad to so X is impossible. it would work in the same sense as it works for cows. Let's fight it on moral grounds. Deny obvious scientific facts and we lose, or at best derail the argument. What am I pointing out to here? That he is giving the ideological basis for eugenics, but claims he is not doing so at the same time. What I write after this is, Richard Dawkins' sentiments remind me of Alfred Hitchcock's American psychological crime film Rope, where the killers, Brandon and Philip, justify their horrendous crime using the reasoning of their housemaker, Rupert, even though he would not endorse any acting upon his philosophy. Not unsimilarly, misguided people may only too well utilize the housemaster Dawkins' science for eugenics. Now, this movie Rope was based on an actual event. In the early 1900s, two Jewish young men attempted to carry out the perfect murder. They murdered a young boy and they were caught. Alfred Hitchcock based his movie Rope on the novel that was based upon the actual event. Similarly, we have had murderers who base their murder upon a philosophy, like Ian Brady, for instance. Ian Brady claimed to have been influenced by certain philosophical writers. Similarly, in Islam, you may have misguided people who misuse deen, like the Khawarij, who I make mention of, to validate their murders.